Shocking revelation, tonight, God exposes the lies you've believed forever. The full moon hung high, its silver light spilling like a whisper over the tired streets of Maplewood. But something strange was brewing, a feeling thick in the air, electrifying the atmosphere. It gripped everyone, like a prelude to a storm. People looked up, jaws dropping, as strange lights danced above the old church on Elm Street. It wasn't just flickering bulbs, it was an unearthly glow that seemed to pulsate with secrets. It danced, it flared, and then it vanished, leaving behind a deep silence that made hearts race. In the heart of that silence, Alice stood frozen, wide-eyed. The deep pressure in her chest felt like a warning, a signal that something was terribly wrong. She clutched her phone, but it buzzed with no notifications, just a flicker of anxiety reflected back at her. "Did you see that?" she murmured to her friend Ben. He stared, his lips parted, disbelief washing over his features. What had that light meant? Were they demons? Messages from a higher power? The town had its share of gossip, but no one could explain this. As the crowd slowly gathered, conversations erupted with frenzied energy. A woman gasped, "It's a sign," while a man declared it a hoax. But every person knew deep down that something had shifted. Unease dripped from their bodies, questions sparked in their eyes. What if it's true? Alice wondered, her thoughts spiraling wildly. The world felt like it was about to tilt, and she stood on the edge, her heart racing. Just then, the church bells rang, slicing through the tension. The sound echoed, unsettling, crashing into each person's thoughts as a figure emerged from the church's shadowy entrance. Dressed in tattered robes, an old man with wild eyes and a white beard stepped forward. "Tonight," he shouted, voice booming like thunder, "the hidden is made known. Lies you've believed forever will crumble." A gasp escaped Alice's lips. Who was he? Was this truly what everyone feared? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The old man lifted his arm, pointing skyward. Tonight, God speaks. Are you ready to hear the truth? The crowd shifted, whispers blending into a hum of confusion and excitement. Alice's skin prickled. What truth? What lies? Would everything she thought she knew unravel before her eyes? The air tightened around her, a magnetic force urging her to step forward, to demand answers. But as she took a breath, the ground trembled slightly beneath her feet, throwing her off balance. What had she just stumbled into? A sudden crack in the air silenced every murmured doubt and thrummed with the promise of revelation. The truth lay just ahead, shrouded in darkness, and Alice was drawn toward it, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and fierce curiosity. Would she be ready for what was to come? The old man's eyes blazed with an intensity that sent a chill up Alice's spine. She could feel the collective breath of the crowd, curiosity mingling with lingering fear. "What lies?" someone shouted from the back, cutting through the tension like a knife, and the old man's gaze swung toward the voice. "Lies of your past, lies that trap you in darkness," he boomed, each word echoing against the church's weathered stones. Alice felt a jolt, something deep inside her shifted, clawing its way to the surface. She instinctively pressed her palm against her chest, feeling the rapid heartbeat drumming beneath it. Ben leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Should we leave?" But she could see it in his eyes, he was just as entranced as everyone else. This was a show they couldn't turn their backs on. "What do you want from us?" A young woman stepped forward, her face pale but determined. "What does this have to do with us?" The old man grinned, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp for comfort. Tonight, you shall face what you've buried. The darkness you avoid. The truths you hide. Each of you holds a secret that festers inside. And he took a step closer, the crowd parting instinctively. I shall unveil them. A ripple of nervous energy raced through Alice. Secrets? Buried truths? The knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. Unresolved memories clawed at her mind, things she preferred to forget. She was a nobody, caught in the weeds of small-town life, yet this night felt different, electric almost. The air shifted again, abruptly turning cold. A gust of wind carried an unsettling whisper through the crowd, more than just a breeze, it felt alive. People began to murmur, shifting uneasily as if recalling their own hidden pasts. Faces turned whiter, eyes wide with terror and intrigue, and Alice felt a sudden urge to step back. But she couldn't. Something tethered her in place, a visceral need for clarity, for truth. The old man raised both hands, and a crackling sound surged through the air, akin to thunder following lightning. Join me in this epiphany. He roared. Who among you will reveal their truth first? Gasps echoed, and silence sprinkled among them like ash. Alice glanced at Ben, whose anxiety mirrored her own. A dreadful feeling gripped her gut. What if the old man was right? What if tonight wasn't just some bizarre show but a reckoning? I'll do it, a voice quivered from the crowd. An older man stepped forward, his face drawn and weary, as if the years had leached away his spirit. I have sinned, I'm the reason for the tragedy that fell upon our town. The air grew dense with tension, every eye locked on him, anticipating the fallout of his revelation. Alice felt her breath hitch, raw emotion balancing on a precipice. Would he confess that which could sever bonds forever? Suddenly, just as the old man leaned in, the church doors swung wide, creaking eerily as a dark figure entered. A shroud of shadow blanketed the light behind, and murmurs escalated into panic. Who or what had stepped into the fray? A chill settled over Alice, and she felt dread crawl up her spine. This night was spiraling into chaos, secrets threatening to explode, and unknown forces looming with intent. What was really waiting beneath that silver moonlight, concealed in the darkness? The old man's eyes widened, and he turned to the newcomer. You shouldn't be here. Who was this figure, and what connection did they share with the old man's ominous proclamation? Alice felt her heart race faster. The night's revelations were far from over, and whatever was coming, it was closer than she imagined. The church was engulfed in an electric silence, broken only by the soft shuffle of feet as the dark figure advanced. Shadows danced across the stone floor, stretching unnaturally as the figure emerged fully into the dim light. The pale face of a woman appeared, her hair flowing like a cascade of midnight and framing piercing, unfamiliar eyes. Alice's heart pounded, feeling as if it might burst from her chest. There was something familiar about this stranger, but the recognition slipped away like water through her fingers. The crowd's breath hitched as the woman met the old man's gaze with an intensity that mirrored his own. Why did you summon me? Her voice, though soft, resonated powerfully in the small church, demanding attention. The tension twisted around Alice like a vice, pushing her into a vortex of uncertainty. The old man took a hesitant step toward her, his bravado momentarily faltering. You've kept yourself hidden for too long. The time has come for truths to be unveiled, for every soul here to confront the darkness within. Alice glanced at Ben, his eyes flickered between the old man and this mysterious woman, caught between fascination and fear. Who are you? Someone muttered from the back. The question hung heavy in the air, desperate for answers. I am the keeper of stories, the woman replied, her gaze sweeping over the crowd with an unsettling familiarity. I've seen your lies, your sorrows, your pain. Each one of you carries a burden. Some know it well, others avoid it at all costs. A wave of murmurs cascaded through the crowd. Alice sensed a collective shift, as if the air thickened with palpable dread. I have come to help you see, she continued, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of urgency. To illuminate the lies that keep you confined to the shadows. It is time to let the light in. Light? Scoffed a man near the front, a nervous laugh threading through his words. What light? You think we're just going to spill our secrets because you say so? The moment he spoke, Alice's apprehension deepened. She didn't want to spill her secrets, not tonight. She didn't want to face whatever darkness encroached upon her. The woman turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. Do you think hiding will protect you? The darkness demands exposure, and each truth carries power, a power to heal or harm. What will you choose? The air buzzed with unspoken revelations, each person wrestling with internal storms, and Alice felt it within her, a vague urge to say something, to break free from the shadows spiraling around her thoughts. What if we choose silence? Alice's own voice surprised her. The crowd hushed, all eyes fixated on her. The woman smiled gently, but it felt like a warning. Then silence will choose for you. Secrets, unlike us, cannot die. They linger, infest, and entrap. But I am here to break those bonds. The old man nodded, seeming to gather strength from her presence. You can run from the truth, but it will come for you. It will hunt you down until you face it. Alice's breath caught in her throat. The truth about her past, the fragmented memories she had carefully tucked away, threatened to unravel. A silent scream echoed in her mind, but she fought against it. Suddenly, Ben took a step forward, his face pale but resolute. What do we do? He asked breathlessly. Decide, the woman said simply, her voice cutting through the suspense. Who is willing to confront their truth? Who is ready to walk into the light and face what lies beyond the shadows? Alice's heart raced anew, and her body trembled as if caught in a storm of choices. The others around her exchanged anxious glances, fear, determination, and something darker lingering in their eyes. A voice from the back called out. I will. The proclamation nervously pulsed through the crowd like a match struck in darkness. But before a single confession could tumble forth, the doors behind the figure swung shut with a thunderous clang, reverberating through the church. Everyone spun around, breath held in anticipation. The old man's eyes darkened. It's begun, he hissed. Nothing can stop this now. Alice felt her pulse quicken, the air around her thickening with a sense of impending doom. What truths awaited her? What dangerous revelations would claw their way to the surface? The night had just begun, and shadows loomed closer. The room trembled in silence as the echoes of the door slamming back cascaded off the cold stone walls. A chill swept through the congregation, and Alice could feel the electric charge in the air intensifying, making her skin prickle. What is happening? The words tumbled from Ben, his tone wavering with fear. Alice couldn't take her eyes off the mysterious woman, who stood unfazed, seemingly relishing in the chaos. Tonight, choices must be made, she said, her voice low and melodic, yet filled with an urgency that rang through the church like a distant bell. When the door closes, it invites ominous truths. Most fear this moment, but fear is but a ghost. Your secrets will crawl from your shadows if you let them. Alice's heart raced. She wanted nothing more than to sink into the very floor and vanish. Yet, deep down, a small flicker of courage whispered to her, wouldn't it be better to face the darkness? The man who had scoffed earlier now stood in defiance, crossing his arms like armor. You think we're afraid of some tales? You think you can just waltz in here and turn our lives upside down? We control our secrets. But as he spoke, Alice noticed a flicker of doubt in his eyes, like a crack in a dam. It was fragile yet unmistakable. Do you truly believe that? The woman replied, a smirk tugging at her lips. Your secrets have woven their chains so tight that you can barely breathe. But breathe you must, or break. An anxious gasp rippled through the crowd, voices rising in a mixture of indignation and fear. Alice felt the tension escalating, the weight of their collective unspooling stories pressing down on her chest like a boulder. "Let us be honest," the woman continued, her eyes darting among them like a hawk searching for prey. "Who among you is brave enough to step forward and confront what haunts you? Or will you cower and let darkness dictate your fate?" "Enough of this!" shouted another voice, cutting through the escalating tension. A woman stood up, her face flushed and wild. "You're wrong. We're not going to spill our guts just because of theatrics. It is only theatrics if you choose to make it so," the woman said. "But remember, secrets fester. They turn into poison that seeps into every aspect of your lives." The old man stepped forward, his demeanor changing. "Your lives are at a crossroads. You must decide to break free or remain shackled," he said, his voice thick with urgency now. "Face your past, or let it consume you." Alice's pulse raced. She grasped Ben's hand, squeezing it tightly. "We have to think about this," she whispered, though her heart knew the answer she was searching for. The echo of her own pain resonated with the notion of freedom. Suddenly, a figure bolted forward, breaking from the crowd. It was a young woman, her face streaked with tears. I will face it." Her voice echoed through the church, trembling but defiant. The collective gasp from the crowd felt like a shared intake of breath, the temperature in the room plunging as if the darkness had thickened around them. The mysterious woman smiled, her eyes glinting with a predatory satisfaction. "One willing to breach the veil. Who else shall follow her into the light?" Alice's heart pounded in her ears as deafening silence fell upon them, broken only by the quiet sound of the weeping woman's breath, ragged and raw. The spark of courage ignited something in Alice, a warmth spreading through her chest that burned against the cold fear settling there. Alice started, the words battling their way to the surface. Could she take that leap? Could they trust this stranger? But before she could commit, the church doors rattled as if something was trying to break in from the outside. Everyone turned, fear plastered across their faces. The woman stood tall, unyielding, and a low chuckle escaped her lips, echoing ominously. "The past is restless. It wants to be known. And it won't stop until it is." A clock chimed somewhere in the distance, piercing the tension like a knife. The hour was late, but the night was just beginning. Would the truth set them free, or would it damn them forever? Alice felt the shadows coiling tighter, gnawing at the edges of her sanity. What awaited them as they walked down this perilous path? The air hung heavy with the promise of revelation, but what darkness awaited on the other side? The air thickened as the rattling doors quieted to an eerie stillness. Everyone's breath stilled, each heart drumming loudly against the suffocating silence that enveloped the church. "Who's there?" a voice called out, trembling with desperation. They all felt an unexplainable pull, a magnetism drawing attention to the closed doors. The mysterious woman smirked, her presence radiant amid the mounting fear, reveling in the chaos she had orchestrated. "Do not let the darkness distract you from what lies within," she said, her voice rolling like thunder through the chamber. Alice felt her courage falter. In the pit of her stomach, dread curled and twisted. What happened next would shape everything. Just then, footsteps echoed from outside. Heavy, determined, threatening. A figure loomed in shadow behind the door, gradually stepping closer. With a loud crash, the doors swung wide, revealing a man with hollow eyes and a fierce resolve. His dirty clothes were a patchwork of struggles, and his presence felt like a storm in the room. "I'm back, we need to talk." His voice reverberated through the crowd, cutting straight to Alice's core. Gasps filled the air. Murmurs buzzed like a wasp's nest disturbed. The atmosphere shifted sharply, amplifying the tension. "You," the old man whispered, disbelief resting heavy on his features. "But you were." "I was dead to you." The man interrupted, incredulous. "But you can't bury the truth. It haunts us all." His gaze swept over the congregation, landing on familiar faces, each painted with the pale hues of shock. Alice's mind raced. Who was he? What truth did he carry? And why did it feel as if an electric charge pulsed through her, connecting her to this stranger? I can't let this happen again, he continued, desperation threaded through his tone. It's coming for you. It's coming for all of us. A collective intake of breath swept through the crowd. The mysterious woman leaned in, her smile broadening like a predator eyeing its catch. See how easily the truth slips through their fingers, she intoned, her voice laced with excited glee as she reveled in their discomfort. The young woman who had cried earlier stepped back, her hands trembling as she pressed against the wall. What do you want? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, quaking with fear. I want you to face your demons. They'll claw their way back to you, whether you're ready or not. I refused to acknowledge mine, and they destroyed me. The man ranted. He glanced desperately at Alice for understanding. You have the choice. Don't stand idle or you'll regret it. Alice felt the weight of his words settle heavily on her heart, a mix of fear and urgency swirling within her. It was as if a dark cloud loomed over them, threatening to rain on their parade of ignorance. What demons? She asked, voice shaking, mind racing with unanswered questions. The man took a step closer, eyes locking on hers. The truth is relentless. It has a way of unearthing what we think we've buried. I can only help you if you're willing to accept what you've hidden. The mysterious woman clapped lightly, mockingly. Look at them, the brave souls standing valiantly against the shadows, clueless of the horrors that lurk within. This night reveals more than you can comprehend. With that, a flicker of something dark flared in the corners of the church, shadows spilling like ink, stretching across the ground. Gasps erupted again as flickering lights began to flicker wildly. A storm was brewing, both inside and out. Choose now. The woman cried, her voice fierce against the chaos. Will you face what comes or let fear devour your souls? Alice's chest tightened. She could feel the chains of her past rattling, pulling her back. There was no escaping it. Darkness threatened to swallow her whole, but a whisper inside urged her to fight back. As the foundations of their reality threatened to shatter, she understood the choice was bigger than herself. What awaited them could either liberate or destroy them. If she waded into the depths of her darkness, would she find light? The tension in the air shifted, thick and charged, and the clock chimed again, each toll a countdown to an impending reckoning. What truths would rise from the ashes of their hidden lies? In that instant, Alice realized she had to decide: step forward into the light or back into oblivion. Which path would she choose? Alice's heart hammered as the uncertainty washed over her. The man's words echoed in her mind like a warning bell. Shadows twisted and curled around the edges of the church, creating an atmosphere where hope felt suffocated. Choose now. The mysterious woman's voice pierced through the haze of panic, a cruel challenge that taunted them. Panic erupted among the other congregants. Murmurs broke the tense silence, fear bubbling to the surface. This is insane. Who even is that guy? Someone shouted, voice trembling. It doesn't matter. He's just trying to scare us. Another retorted, but their eyes were wide with uncertainty. The man stepped further into the church, his intense gaze capturing Alice. She couldn't look away. There was urgency in his expression, something primal that gripped her insides. I know who you are, he breathed, his voice low, filled with the weight of history. And I know what you're hiding. Alice's breath caught. The sensation crept over her like icy fingers. Could he truly see the secrets she buried deep within? Memories flickered through her mind, hurt, regret, the shame that clung to her like a second skin. But the woman, undeterred and delighting in chaos, sneered at the crowd, her eyes sparkling with malice. You see? Fear is what keeps you shackled. It feeds off your doubts, she taunted. And while you squabble, the demons tighten their grip. Just then, the flickering lights went out completely, leaving them engulfed in darkness. A gasp swept through the crowd, panic lost some of its grip in the sudden blackness. Alice felt the man beside her shift, as if moved by some invisible force. "Listen," he barked, impatience seeping into his voice. "Your truth is not your enemy. Only by facing it can you break free from the chains that bind your soul." Alice could feel the pounding in her chest escalate. Was this a game? Or was he begging them to comprehend something monumental? "Why now?" a young man shouted, sounding desperate. The fear in his voice echoed Alice's own turmoil. "What are these demons?" Suddenly, the lights surged back to life, bright, blinding. Shadows retreated, only to reveal figures standing behind the man. Shapes that were all too familiar, faces that had been absent for far too long. Alice's breath hitched as she recognized her own reflection in the eyes of those lost people she hadn't seen in years. They stared back at her, disappointment etched into their expressions, accusing her of every buried truth she thought she had escaped. A chill enveloped her as their whispers began to swirl around her. "You said you'd change. You chose to forget us. How could you betray us like this?" The memories clawed up from the depths, raw and relentless. Tears brimmed in her eyes as the weight of judgment pressed down, suffocating her. Where was the light she had clung to moments ago? "Face them," the man urged, fire igniting his voice. "Only through their gaze can you find your strength." The woman laughed, a sound that peeled at the seams of reality. "What will you do, Alice? Hide in shadows or embrace the chaos?" Alice trembled. She felt every heartbeat pounding through her veins, echoing confidence against the growing fear, ready to spill over. The choice was hers. Would she summon the courage to confront the past, or let the darkness swallow her whole? And just when it seemed she could grasp the thread of light within, a shriek cut through the air, harsh and piercing, sending shivers down her spine. The room felt like it was closing in on her. "Someone's coming!" the young woman shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. Panic reignited in an instant. What would emerge from the shadows to claim them? The clock chimed again, an ominous reminder of an approaching reckoning. Alice had to act fast. In the moments ticking away, a choice loomed large, and the dreadful unknown stretched like a chasm beneath her feet. Could she still find freedom amidst the tumult? The dark figures loomed closer, beckoning. Would their whispers be her salvation or her undoing? The night was far from over. Alice's heart pounded louder, her final threads of resolve fraying as the dark figures closed in, their cold eyes unblinking. Panic spread through the crowd like wildfire. The conviction in the man's voice collided with the rising tide of fear. Could she truly confront her haunting past? Was it even possible to reclaim herself from the depths of darkness that threatened to engulf her? The woman at the front, swathed in shadows, smirked as she watched the pandemonium unfold. "What a show, isn't it?" she taunted, her voice threading through the chaos. "Your reckoning is upon you. But will you show your true selves, or will you turn away?" The screeching sound from before echoed again, a harsh, guttural noise that clawed at Alice's insides. She could feel the grip of dread closing tighter around her throat. "Please, I can't," she whispered, but the words felt like mere dust in the air, lost amidst the storm brewing around her. "Doubt is your enemy," the man urged again, his frame resolute despite the tempest surrounding him. "You are stronger than your past, Alice. They can only shackle you if you let them." But before she could grasp the weight of his message, the windows shook violently, rattling as if the very structure was whispering to her. Outside, shadows danced against the stained glass, flickering like a dark ballet of memories. As they moved, the accusing faces behind the man began to morph, blending into figures from her childhood. Laughter intermingled with screams, joyous celebrations turned into anguished cries. "Remember us!" they called out, their voices intertwining. "We are the pieces you discarded. The laughter you silenced. The love you buried. Alice staggered backward, clutching the pew for support. She had worked so hard to cultivate a new life, to escape them. The shame she had buried deep swelled, threatening to drown her. No. I want to be bound by this. She cried, the desperation spilling into every word. The man stepped closer, his intensity amplifying. Freedom lies in the truth of your heart. Face them. Face yourself. Reveal what they really want. But Alice was lost in a current of emotions. Guilt spilled over like a tidal wave, crashing against her fragile heart. It's easier to forget. You don't know, don't I? He interjected, his voice slicing through the fog like a knife. Confront your fear. Tear down the walls you've built. Then the clocks chimed again, a harsh reminder of time slipping away. The figure of her past distorted, chaotic moved closer, its edges blurring like ink on a wet page. The very air around her thickened as dread seeped in, but a flicker of defiance ignited within her. Something deep inside urged her to speak. I am more than my disappointments, she asserted, her voice rising, resonating through the church. I am not running anymore. The declarations felt liberating yet terrifying. The faces twisted, bearing both sorrow and surprise. It was true, she had hidden from them, from herself. In denying what once shaped her, she lost sight of who she had become. Then accept us, Alice. They shrieked, a cacophony of haunting echoes. Embrace the lessons we taught you or perish in the darkness. Suddenly, a blinding light burst forth, seeping through the cracks of shadows, illuminating the church in pure radiance. The figures faltered, their forms flickering as if struggling against the light. Rising through the darkness, you may just find your place among us, the young woman beside her whispered, hope shimmering in her tear-filled eyes. But the malevolent laughter of the woman cut through the rush of burgeoning hope. Do you think this is the end? She jeered, shadows swirling around her like a storm. No, my dears. This is just the beginning. The intensity coiled tighter, the air thick with anticipation, dread clawing at Alice's senses. Could she truly uncover the past scattered in shadows, or would it slip from her grasp like sand? Suddenly, beyond the writhing darkness, a door creaked open at the back of the church, revealing a winding staircase descending into a void. Come. A voice beckoned from below. Chilling in its allure. Discover what lies hidden in the depths. Will you follow? And in that breathless moment, Alice stood frozen. Should she embrace this dark invitation and plunge deeper into the secrets of her heart? The night was far from over. Alice felt her breath hitch in her throat as tension coiled in the air. The door loomed like an abyss, its shadows beckoning her like a siren's song. What if I walk down that staircase? She thought. What waits for me below? The figures behind her shifted restlessly, their unresolved pain swirling around them like mist. They were both a warning and an invitation. A cold sweat broke out across her brow, and for a moment, she thought about stepping back, about fleeing. But she couldn't keep running. Not now. With shaky legs, Alice took a step toward the staircase. Shadows slithered alongside her, whispering twisted tales of her past. Memories she thought she had buried deep clawed their way back to the surface. Each echo of laughter, each tear she had shed, suffocated her hope. Go on, the voice from below urged again, smooth yet sinister. Face the truth, Alice. You're only ever one step away. She looked back at the crowd, faces twisted with uncertainty and desperation. The man's gaze burned into her, filled with a fierce determination. You're not alone. He shouted, his voice cutting through her fears. They want their story to be told. With his words igniting something inside her, Alice made the choice. She stepped onto the staircase. Each step descended into darkness, her heart racing like a runaway train. The air thickened, pressing against her chest. It felt like an eternity before she reached the bottom, where the shadows congregated like a congregation waiting for their sermon. "Welcome, Alice," the voice cooed, the shadows swirling with excitement, like children eager to unveil a secret. "We've been waiting for you." Before her, a small room expanded into total darkness, but it pulsed with a strange energy, a heart beating just beneath the surface. The walls seemed to shimmer with forgotten memories, echoing with familiar voices that clawed at her consciousness. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, the tremor in her voice edged with defiance. "Everything," they responded, their tone chillingly harmonious. "Your acceptance. Your forgiveness. Your release from this torment." With fierce clarity, she offered the words that had eluded her. "I did not choose this. I wanted to forget." "Did you?" The voice rippled. "Or did you want to be free from the weight of guilt that shackles you?" A jagged pain twisted in her chest, and suddenly the room flickered with visages of love and laughter, moments of loss and betrayal. It all rushed back. Each memory was heavier than the last, crashing into her like waves. "I can't," she gasped, the truth flooding in, drowning her in shame. "I can't face them. They'll never forgive me." "Then you will remain trapped," they whispered, mingling with the wind. "You'll forever echo in darkness." Alice's eyes widened as the shadows twisted, morphing into the faces she had tried to ignore. They stared back with intensity, gauging her resolve. Fear constricted her heart, pulling tighter as their silent expectation loomed over her. "Accept them." She heard the man's voice echoing from the church above. "Show them you are whole." The walls pulsed, demanding an answer, but her throat tightened. Could she really let go of the anger? The regret? Was any part of her intact enough to embrace her past? Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, curling around her, seeping into her skin. She screamed, a raw sound of agony and confusion. They filled her, memories crashing into one another, tearing open old wounds. But through the chaos, a flicker of light pierced her heart. "I do want to be free," she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I do want the truth. I want to embrace all of it." And then, like the dawn breaking the darkest night, something shifted. The shadows began to unravel, giving way to a luminous wave of warmth surging through her being. "Welcome home, Alice," they murmured, softening now, their edges blurring into something gentler. "You have finally found your voice, and with it, your power." But just as hope pulsed within her, the mocking laughter of the woman echoed through the chamber, drowning her newfound strength. "Ah, but you've only scratched the surface. The night holds more than you can fathom." The underground room shook, threatening to cave in on itself, and Alice felt the ground beneath her shift. "Will you stand your ground, or will you let the darkness consume you?" Echoed the shadows, the air electric with tension. Another choice was upon her. The darkness writhed, more alive than ever, ready to claim her if she faltered. Could she face the next revelation? Would she find the courage to confront whatever was hidden in the light ahead? Or would she succumb to the sinister allure of her past? As the walls around her trembled, it became clear that the descent had just begun. The echo of the woman's laughter trailed off, leaving behind a dense silence, thick with anticipation. Alice felt the weight of all the lost hopes and suppressed fears close in around her like a noose. She blinked hard, trying to clear the swirling haze of memories that threatened to drag her back into darkness. "Fight it, Alice." The man's voice rang in her ears, steady and encouraging. "You are stronger than this." With her heart racing, she squared her shoulders, grounding herself. "What lies?" she demanded, her voice barely a whisper. "What have I believed that isn't true?" "Everything," the shadows seemed to chorus, their harmony vibrating in her bones. "The lies you've worn like a cloak of shame. The guilt you've embraced as your identity. You've been living someone else's truth, bound by expectations." Glimmers of light danced like fireflies in the abyss. The sensation of warmth flooded her senses, mingling with the chill that clung to her skin. What if I don't want to know? Alice's voice quivered as fear punctured her defiance. What if the truth is worse? Only one way to find out, a voice replied, almost amused. It was that same seductive timbre that had called to her earlier, now dripping with temptation. Alice looked around the dim room, the walls alive with shadows. The faces that loomed over her no longer bore expressions of anger. Instead, they melted into a strange compassion that made her throat tighten. She could sense their pain mingling with hers, a shared burden. You once thought you knew what was best for you. But we hold your heart's deepest wishes, will you let us show you? Shaking her head, she wrestled with their words. It felt like standing on the precipice of a great cliff, one foot hovering over the edge. What if I do face it? What if it destroys me? A flurry of whispers erupted, swirling all around her. You will never be free until you invite the truth in, they insisted, the urgency of their voices thickening the air. Only in confronting the unseen can you find healing. As they spoke, images flashed before her eyes, echoes of laughter at a birthday party, soft words of comfort from her mother, a friend's warm hug in a moment of despair. Each one shimmered and fractured, revealing darker truths lurking beneath the surface. Secrets of betrayals, hidden regrets, and unconscious choices intermingled, each like a dagger to her heart. Her breath hitched, realizing how deeply she had buried the pain. I never realized, she began, the realization hitting her like a wave. I thought I could just move on. But moving on doesn't mean forgetting. Exactly. The shadows urged, the tones increasing in fervor. Accept the past, acknowledge it. Only then can you craft the future. With a swell of courage, she took a step forward. Show me. Let me see. Very well. The shadows rippled, twisting and swirling, merging into a single, blinding light that stretched toward the ceiling. Alice shielded her eyes, heart pounding like a drum. Brace yourself, Alice. The truth awaits. The night holds the answers you seek. With a deep inhale, she stepped fully into the light, the warmth enveloping her like a tender embrace. Suddenly, the room exploded into vivid colors, forcing her to confront a world that spun too fast for her mind to grasp. Visions collided, unfolding the stories of her life she had kept caged in her heart for far too long. But hovering just at the edge of her perception, a darker figure waited, cloaked in shadows, a presence she had not seen before, yet felt deeply. Will you allow them to guide you to your truth, or will you fall back into silence? It whispered, foreboding and insistent, the question ricocheted in her mind. She clung to the light, but felt the tug of familiarity in the darkness. What will happen when the truth is unleashed? She whispered, knowing that what lay ahead could change everything. As she braced for the revelation, the air thrummed with tension, and the shadows laughed softly, their excitement palpable. Alice stood at the threshold, teetering between her fears and the promises of liberation. Would she embrace the revelations waiting for her, or would the shadows pull her back into the depths of despair? The choice, she realized, was hers alone to make. The room shivered as Alice stood poised on the precipice of truth, the trembling shadows swirling around her, teasing and taunting her every inch. She could feel the pulse of the past thrumming against her heart, a relentless reminder that the only way out was through. Don't walk away now, the man's voice cut through her, strong and steady, anchoring her in the storm of uncertainty. You've come this far. You can face it. With her heart pounding, she took a deep breath and stepped forward into the light. It enveloped her, swirling away the shrouded memories and fears that had clung to her all these years. The shadows recoiled, their laughter fading to a tense hush, leaving only Alice and the truth that lay ahead. Visions whirled before her eyes. Moments from her childhood flickered like fragile flames: joy, pain, abandon. She watched herself laughing with friends, only to feel the stabbing sensation of betrayal as familiar faces faded into shadow. Tears filled her eyes as the truth wove itself into fabric, each thread glimmering with love but darkened by secrets and grief. "I buried them," she whispered, voice shaking as the weight of her realization settled upon her. "I thought I could forget." "Yes," the shadows murmured softly now, losing their malevolence in the face of her acceptance. "And the longer you hide, the stronger they grow. This is your moment." With each confession, her heart expanded, slowly breathing life into the pieces long hidden. Her deepest wounds started to mend, surfacing the courage needed to confront what she had feared. "I was afraid to love, afraid to believe I was deserving," she admitted, her voice resonating as power swept through her. "Yes, Alice. Hear your heart." The man cheered from afar, rooting her on. Suddenly, the oppressive heaviness broke, and from the light emerged a figure, the woman who had haunted the night. Her smirk faded into a neutral expression, as if the truth stripped her of power. "What will you choose, Alice? Will you let the light guide you or the shadows consume you?" Alice found her voice strong and unwavering. "I choose to embrace my truth. I will not be ashamed of my past. It has shaped who I am, my joys and my sorrows. I stand here, not to hide, but to thrive." The words resonated throughout the church, echoing off the stone walls. A shockwave rippled through the shadows, twisting and writhing, as if they grappled to hold their ground against the very light that empowered her. The mysterious woman faltered, taken aback as if the force of Alice's honesty struck a chord deep within her. "You cannot escape me," she hissed, but her voice wavered. "I am not afraid. I've seen you for what you are, a reflection of my doubts." Alice shouted back, and with that, she took another step forward. Suddenly, the figures of her past swirled around her once more, but this time, their expressions softened. "You've chosen to heal, Alice. We forgive you," they whispered, voices blending together into a symphony of acceptance and compassion. She felt their warmth wrap around her like a comforting embrace, lifting the burdens that had once anchored her to despair. And just then, the light grew brighter as the shadows melted away, revealing the faces of those transformed by love, patience, and understanding. They faded into brilliant sparks, illuminating the darkness still lurking on the edges. "I have my story," Alice declared firmly to the remaining shadows, which quivered but did not flee. "I refuse to let you define who I am. I am whole, I am free." The shadows screamed and writhed one last time before exploding into a brilliant display of fireflies, luminescent reminders of the freedom she had claimed. The atmosphere shifted, the air lighter as the moment swelled with an unbearable clarity. Alice turned to the crowd, her face lit by her newfound strength. "We must all face the truths we avoid. Every one of you carries a light ready to shine." Ben stepped forward, eyes wide with admiration and relief. "You did it, Alice. You faced them head-on." The audience seemed to breathe collectively, enveloped by an uplifting wave of hope. The old man expressed a proud nod, and the dark woman was nowhere to be seen. Only hints of shadows remained flickering in the corners of the room, shadows that no longer held power over the souls present. In that moment, with the moon shining brightly through the church's stained-glass windows, Alice found her place among the cracks, the scars, and the brilliance of her existence. The night had transformed from a storm into a warm embrace, and the truths of the town intertwined like threads in a grand tapestry. Truth was a beautiful mess, and it was hers to own. As the crowd filtered out onto the moonlit streets, a sense of lightness seemed to follow, intertwining with the air. Together, they began to share their stories, their truths emerging in pieces, like constellations finding their place in the night sky. But one last message flared in Alice's heart: it was time to keep this moment alive, and let every step toward healing be a call to others to join the fight against their shadows. So now, dear reader, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now, hit that button below immediately so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that might just connect you to your own truths. Smash that like button now. Every click fuels the algorithm that spreads these stories further and keeps this amazing community growing. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what this ending means for you. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message. Together, we can embrace our stories, confront our truths, and shine bright. Join the movement. Let us light up the dark.